Hello Internet, this is TheStabbyBrit, and this is a quick and dirty video for all the fans of Warhammer 40,000 out there. This is a quick look at Codex Adeptus Astartes, Space Marines. Now, this is a fairly hefty book, as you can probably hear. Nice, hardback goodness. It came out today. I've had a chance to skim read it. I've not gone into detail on everything, but there's a couple of things I think are worth mentioning. So, let's start with one of the obvious questions, because this book is about twice as much as Index Imperium 1, and it only covers the vanilla Marines. Well, specifically the legions that aren't covered by their own standalone books. And the Black Templars, obviously. So, first question. If you own Index Imperium 1, do you need Codex Space Marines? And that depends. If you are not playing a standard Codex army, you probably don't need it. If you're not really using any Primaris, you might be able to get away with it. If you don't use Battle-Forged forces, I wouldn't consider it essential. However, if you are fielding a Battle-Forged Space Marine army and a Primaris heavy force, you absolutely do need this book, because it will make your forces an order of magnitude more powerful. And to explain why, I'm going to start toward the back of the book. I'm going to start with... Where is it? Here we go. Let's start with the special rules, the Army special rules. So, first off, all Space Marines get "and they shall know no fear." Just like before, you get to reroll failed morale checks, that's good. But there are two abilities you get if you field a Battle-Forged formation. The first is Defenders of Humanity. This applies to all of your troop choices. So, when a unit with Defenders of Humanity is within range of an objective marker, they control it even if there are more enemy models within range of that objective marker. So, I don't have the rulebook to hand, but what I think that basically means is, in a Battle-Forged Space Marine army, you can't contest an objective held by troop choices. This is Tactical Squads, Scout Squads, Intercessor Squads, and Crusader Squads. That's a nice, powerful ability, and I'm glad they put that in, because looking through this book, it's very easy to just think, you know what, I want to spend all of my points on elites. Because this is an elite-heavy army book, believe me. The other special rule you get are your chapter tactics. And this applies to your infantry, bikes, and dreadnoughts. And it does specify it not only applies to the Legion in question, but any successor chapters. And if you're not sure where your chapter comes from, you can just pick whichever one you like. Which is nice. So, the chapter tactics for the Ultramarines, they get the ability to fall back and still shoot with a -1 to hit penalty, which means it's very hard to pin an Ultramarine force down. I like that. That's a good one for a more shooting-focused Space Marine army. White Scars. Whenever a White Scar advances, they add an extra 2 inches in addition to the distance rolled. It does note here, bike units with turbo boost ability therefore move an additional 8 inches when advancing. In addition, White Scars can still charge on the turn in which they fell back. So, you can charge in to make sure that you strike first. Then, when it comes around to your turn again, if you're still in combat, you can fall back and charge again. Strike first again. Why not? Imperial Fists get Siege Masters. Every unit with chapter tactics ignores cover. In addition, you can reroll any failed wound rolls for Imperial Fist units with this tactic when they are targeting a building. So Imperial Fists are really good at bringing enemy units down. For anyone who's not familiar, the way cover works in 8th edition is, if you are in cover, you get +1 to your armor save. Imperial Fists ignore that, which is fantastic. Black Templars can reroll the charge distance. Reroll failed charge rolls, sorry. Reroll failed charge. So, if you just make it into combat, you can't declare to reroll to try and get a bit closer. Only if you fail. Salamanders are quite good. You can reroll a single fail to hit roll and a single fail to wound roll for a Salamander's unit with this tactic each time it shoots or fights, which is pretty damn good. Basically means the Salamanders don't rely on officers as much. They are pretty powerful. Raven Guard gets Shadow Masters, which means your opponent subtracts 1 from their hit rolls when shooting at a Raven Guard unit that is more than 12 inches away. And again, that only applies to unit with the chapter tactic. So it doesn't apply to predators or transports or vehicles of any kind. It only applies to Raven Guard infantry, bikes, and dreadnoughts. Although personally, I love the idea of Redemptor Dreadnought sneaking around somehow. Just presumably they connect the earth-shaking bangs to stray artillery shells or possibly random seismic activity. And finally, Iron Hands, the flesh is weak. Their chapter tactic is essentially a 6+ feel no pain. Every time an Iron Hand with this chapter tactic loses a wound, on a roll of 6 the damage is ignored and the model does not lose a wound. Presumably, if you already have that ability, like for example a Venerable Dreadnought, it stacks, so I would guess an Iron Hand's Venerable Dreadnought ignores wounds on a 5+. This is very, very nice. And obviously we also have a distinct Space Marine Psychic Powers list. They've got some nice powers in there. We have unique Warlord traits, and again you can either roll or pick them. And there's also specific Warlord traits for named characters. For example, if you have an Ultramarines named character as your Warlord, they get the following Warlord trait. While your Warlord is alive, roll dice each time you spend a command point. On a roll of 5+, that command point is immediately refunded. That's a very nice ability when you look at what some of these abilities do. There are unit-specific abilities, there are chapter-specific abilities. One of my favourites, there's actually a couple here where there's one that lets you take extra relics. There's one which is lets you essentially fire 3 Vindicators simultaneously and just potentially wound every unit within 3 inches of a given target point. One thing I like here as well actually is Chapter Masters. We've actually worked out what's happened to Chapter Masters. It's a stratagem now. You can spend 3 points to upgrade one of your captains to a Chapter Master, which gives him the Chapter Master ability. All friendly units within 6 inches reroll any failed hits. You cannot have 2 Chapter Masters from the same chapter, though. So, if you're fielding not Robert Gilliman, if you're fielding Marnius Calgar, he is a Chapter Master. I don't think Robert Gilliman counts as a Chapter Master, but you can't have Calgar and a homebrew Chapter Master. I'll have a quick look and see whether or not he is a class as a Chapter Master. Robute Gilliman. I don't know where he is in this book. He's hiding somewhere. He's not where I expected him to be. So while I look for Robert Gilliman, I'll also have a quick talk about some of the other changes. Ah, here he is. No! Robert Gilliman is not a Chapter Master. But he is pretty damn powerful. I'm not going to go through his rules. But he is classed as a monster, by the way. He has the monster keyword, which I like. So, basically you've got a load of cool stratagems, you've got a load of cool Warlord traits, you've got lots of chapter relics. You've got some unique tactical objectives. I'm not sure how they work because I don't have the rulebook. And you've got your own psychic powers. So, yeah, absolutely, there is lots of fun to be had for Space Marine players in this book. Now let's start... let's go back to the start of the book, and let's talk about the lore and what has changed here. Because you've probably been following the rumours, and you might be a bit confused, you know. Does the Codex still apply? What has changed? Are chapters still chapters, or are they more like legions now? And we can confirm what's gone on. So, at the core, chapters have not changed. Space Marines are still organised into 1,000-strong chapters. The first company is still a veteran company. You've still got the 4 battle companies, the 4 reserve companies, and the scout company. None of that has changed. But what has changed are some of the fine details. For example, instead of being divided into 10 10-man squads, chapters may now be split into up to 20 squads. But their total fighting strength is still 100 Marines. So you could have a chapter that consists of 25-man squads, or 10 10-man squads, or some mix of the two. It also notes now that reserve companies are attached to battle companies and may adopt the company's markings and numbering. So you could potentially have a battle company 200 strong, consisting of 20 10-man squads. But in reality, 10 of those squads would be reserve company Marines. Another thing that's changed is the naming convention. Now the chapter is split into battle line squads, close support squads, and fire support squads. Battle line squads are things like tactical squads and intercessors. Close support squads are things like assault marines. And fire support squads are your devastators, what are they called? Are they annihilators? The plasma chaps. I'll look up what they're called because I've forgotten. But yeah, basically it works the same way as it did before. You know, you have devastators or devastator equivalents, and the company is still split more or less the same way. Let me just double check. Hellblaster, that's the one. Or aggressor squads. What's a bit confusing is these units do not line up with their position. So, for example, the Reaver squad is classified as a close support squad in the chapter organization in the lore, but they're an elite squad in the army list section. That's a little bit confusing. And that's kind of what threw me off a bit. But basically, a standard company will have, 6 battle line squads, 2 close support squads, and 2 fire support squads. And with the links in there, so you could have a Primaris company, which consists of 12 5-man intercessor squads, and then 4 3-man Inceptor squads, and 4 5-man Hellblaster squads. And that would still be a perfectly legal company. The other thing that's changed is companies are now split into demi-companies. And each demi-company is led by a lieutenant. So every single Codex chapter now has 2 lieutenants. And you may be glad to know there are rules for standard Space Marine lieutenants. They're not just a Primaris unit anymore. So I think that about covers all of the Space Marine organization. There is no Primaris scout unit of any kind in here. So it looks like Space Marines are still trained up as scouts, and then they will be upgraded to Primaris, presumably, once they complete their training. So let's see. Sticking to the lore, just one little thing now, before I go on to the actual units. The Mark 10 power armor. There's been a bit of confusion online as to how that works, because we've got Incessor squads with Mark 10, and then we've got Mark 10 Gravitas armor, and Mark 10 Reaver armor. And the way that works is that Mark 10 doesn't refer to the specific model of armor, it refers to the series. So Mark 10 Intercessor, Mark 10 Gravitas, Mark 10 Reaver, it's all built around kind of a core Mark 10 design, with modifications made to make the armor lighter and more agile, or heavier and more durable. So basically there's that. Guilliman has changed how the Mark system works. All the old armor is the same as it always was. So, Mark 7 armor is Mark 7 armor. Now we'll go on to the rules section. And I mentioned before that if you have a Primaris force, you absolutely want this book. And it's not just because you're getting a few new units, like your repulsor tank. Yes, the rules for it are in here. I'll have a look at that for you shortly. It's also the fact that your existing units also have additional rules. So, let's see, where should we start on that? We've got a load of special characters. Lots of special characters. I don't think they've changed very much from the Index Imperium. And a lot of the units are pretty much as you will remember. But I do want to touch on a couple of units. I think... Oh yes, I really should mention, some units have disappeared. As we knew would happen. For example, the Legion of the Damned are not in here at all. They are gone. If you want Legion of the Damned, you're going to have to get Index Imperium. I don't think there are rules for a Tech Marine on bike in here. I don't remember seeing it. Tech Marine... No. So, Tech Marines are foot sloggers now, I'm afraid. Cataphractii armor is still here. You can still have Captains of Cataphractii armor. You can still have Cataphractii Terminators. You can still have Tartarus Terminators. It's all good. So, as I mentioned, Lieutenants are now Standard and Primaris version. They both get the ability that you can reroll ones to wound if you're close enough. Your Primaris Lieutenant looks pretty much the same as he did in the Index Imperium, but he does have new weapon options. You can basically give him a Stalker bolt rifle, which, for all intents and purposes, is a sniper rifle. It's very nice. It's very powerful. It does 2 damage per hit. I recommend it. And the regular lieutenants basically get a mastercrafted bolt gun, a chainsword, a bolt pistol, frag and crack grenades, and can just go to town. You get full access. You can have pistols, combi weapons, melee weapons. You can give them a jump pack. So you can do lots of things with your lieutenant. Great fun. And you can take 2 of them as a single HQ choice, just like you can with the Primaris. So, it's all good. And they get the same tactical precision rule. They're a little bit cheaper than Primaris, but that's because they have 1 less wound and 1 less attack. But you know, chainsword. Chainsword will fix that. What else? Tactical squads, I don't think anything's really changed for these guys. Doesn't look like it. Intercessor squads, though. These guys have changed. Specifically, they have a sergeant, and for intercessors, you can take up to 5 additional intercessors as the same troop choice, so you can have your 10-man squads. They all have to be equipped the same way. However, you can swap the bolt rifle to an auto bolt rifle, which is an Assault 2 bolt gun, or you can have a Stalker bolt rifle, which again is more like a sniper rifle, which is very nice. For every 5 models, 1 can take an auxiliary grenade launcher, which lets you throw your grenades 30 inches as opposed to the usual 6, which is grand, and they can combat squad. So, fantastic. Not going to go into the standard units, the units we all know and love. You know, nothing's really changed. Just checking. Yes, okay, so you've got captains, captains on bike, captains in Cataphractii armor, captains in Terminator armor, Primaris captains, and then captain in Gravitas armor, which it doesn't say so explicitly, but I'm pretty sure that that is always a Primaris captain. Yeah, same stat line, just more toughness. So yeah, 2 Primaris options, and you've got your Primaris librarians, Primaris chaplains. Interestingly, your Primaris librarians and chaplains cannot take Gravitas armor. So what's next? We've covered the intercessors. We have our ancients, the standard bearers. They are great fun. Recommend them. The thing I want to check is, Honor Guard. We have Honor Guard, who are armed with bolt guns, bolt pistols, and power axes. I think... Excuse me, my lips are a bit itchy. I think they have changed a little bit from their Index Imperium version. I'm going to just quickly try and find that for you and compare. I did not think to look. No, the only change is that they basically don't have weapons options anymore. Your Honor Guard now have to have power axes. So I'm afraid if you wanted them to have any other toys, you're gonna have to use the Index Imperium book. Company veterans, I believe, have had an upgrade though. I just can't find them in the Index Imperium. I wanted to double check and compare. Chapter Champion. Company vets, there they are. Actually, no, they look pretty similar to the way they were before. So yeah, company veterans haven't changed either, and they are still in this book. You can't take them on bikes anymore. So, one Space Marine Sergeant and one Space Marine Veteran can have up to 3. So your company veterans are maximum 5-man squads. A little bit disappointing, I would have liked more. But you can basically kit them out however the hell you want. They get full access to the melee weapons and pistols list. They get access to the combi weapons and special weapons list. They can take storm shields as standard. You can do lots of fun things with them. I quite like those. Reaver squads. These are one of the new guys, so I figured people want to know about these. Reaver squads are badass elite combat units. They come with, well, there's 5 of them. You can have up to 10. They have a bolt carbine, which is an assault 2 bolt gun. They have a heavy bolt pistol, which is basically just a bolt pistol with a bit more AP behind it, which is, you know, par for the course. That's Primaris units seem to get better AP for some reason. They get a combat knife, just gives them an extra close combat attack. They don't get that as standard. You can swap the bolt carbine for a combat knife. And they get frag, crack, and shock grenades. So these things are D3 hits. Does not inflict damage. If an enemy infantry unit is hit by shock grenades, it is stunned until the end of the turn. It cannot fire Overwatch and must subtract -1 from any hit rolls made for the unit. That's a little bit unpleasant. Shock grenades have a real potential to ruin your day. So, yep, they can replace their bolt carbines with combat knives. The entire unit can take grav shoots, and the entire unit can take grapple launchers. Grav shoots simply let you deep strike. Grapple launchers let you ignore vertical movement. They can move up and down buildings freely. In addition, they can essentially outflank. At the end of your... You can put them in reserve, and at the end of the movement phase, they can pick up anywhere within 6 inches of a board edge, so long as they're more than 9 inches away from enemy units. So, proper Wolf Scout style outflanking. Oh, and any enemy unit within 3 inches of a Reaver squad subtracts 1 from their leadership. Quite nice. Power level 5. I'll give you some ideas of points, shall I? Reavers. These guys are 18 points a model. A standard Space Marine is 13. Oddly enough, an intercessor is 20 points, oddly enough. So Reavers, despite being better, are cheaper. That's probably because the cost of their weapons is built into the unit. Just having a quick nosy at the Hellblasters. Yeah, Hellblasters are 18 points. So some of the cost of these toys are built into the unit by the looks of things. Yeah, so if you're going to bring all the toys, Reavers are probably going to come at about 20 points a model. Which is about Sternguard territory, I believe. Once you factor in the war gear. Sternguard, Sternguard are 18 points a model, fully kitted out. That's with their special bolt guns. Just to give you a a ballpark. Aggressor squads. These are obviously going to be popular. These guys are 25 points before war gear. So, they're not going to be cheap, believe me. You got your Boltstorm gauntlets. Where are the Boltstorm? So, okay, you're looking at like 50 points a model for aggressor squads. At least. But these guys, they've got Gravitas armor, so they get the toughness bonuses. The Boltstorm gauntlet combo gives them 6 shots, which is nice, and gives them essentially power fists in melee. So, very, very strong. Strength 8 in combat, very powerful. Little bit scary. They can be combat squadded. If you have 6 of them, you can have. They are between 3 and 6. If you have 6 of them, you can split them up. The unit can fire twice if they remain stationary, including when firing an Overwatch. And models do not suffer any penalty to their hit rolls when advancing and firing assault weapons. I didn't think there was a penalty for moving and shooting assault weapons. Maybe I was wrong. Strange. But yeah, maybe I got it wrong on my first game, because the demo game I played, we didn't have movement penalties for assault weapons, so maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe this is some kind of weird misprint, or I don't know. Anyway, important thing is, these guys can replace their auto bolt guns for Flamestorm gauntlets. Let's see. Yes, so they have, as well as the Boltstorm gauntlets, they also have a Fragstorm grenade launcher, which is fun. It's just an extra D6 shots per turn. But they can get rid of the Boltstorm and Fragstorm grenade launcher and have Flamestorm gauntlets. These are power fists again, but you get basically 2 flamers. So 2d6 shots that automatically hit. Nice if you can get close enough to use it. 5-inch movement, so that might be a little bit tricky. I think these are probably going to be the guys you want to stick in your repulsor. You have Terminator squads. They've not really changed. Teleport Strike, Teleport Homer. So yeah, they've not really changed. Cataphracti, Tartarus, Terminator squads, all that's in there. Vanguard, Sternguard. Yeah, they have Sternguard, Vanguard. They don't look like they've changed at all from the whatchamacallit, Index Imperium. All the Dreadnoughts look the same. Venerable Dreadnoughts are still very fun. Contemptor Dreadnoughts are still one of my favourite units. I do like them. Now, the Redemptor Dreadnought. Now, this guy's power level 10. I won't bother going into the specific points for this guy, but he's power level 10 for reference. A Contemptor Dreadnought, Venerable Dreadnought, Ironclad Dreadnought, these things are all power level 8. So that's your frame of reference. This guy is huge. He's got like 13 wounds. His stats go down the more damage he takes. He's pretty fast. He's got 8 inches of movement to start with. And he is armed with a heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, a heavy flamer, an Icarus rocket pod, 2 Fragstorm grenade launchers, my apologies, and a Redemptor fist. So, what is a Redemptor fist? It's a Dreadnought close combat weapon which has a random amount of damage. Dreadnought close combat weapons just do a flat 3 wounds every time they punch you in the face, which is great when you get 4 attacks to one of these things. Redemptor Dreadnoughts do d6 damage, so they potentially better, potentially worse. So, swings and roundabouts. I quite like the flat 3. I like to know exactly how much misery I'm inflicting upon you. But that heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, it's basically a 12-shot heavy bolter, basically. A little bit shorter ranged, but beefy. Heavy Flamer, yep, we know the drill for these, should do by now. It has an Icarus rocket pod, it has an anti-aircraft rocket launcher. It gets a -1 to hit if... it gets +1 to hit against flying targets, and -1 to hit against all other targets. Who cares, it's still firing a shitload of missiles. You can replace the Heavy Flame with an Onslaught Gatling Cannon, which is the same as the Heavy Onslaught Gatling Cannon, except it's slightly shorter ranged, and you fire only 6 shots. Who cares, you can still fire bloody 18 shots a turn with this thing. Oh, and then you have your grenade launcher. Potentially 27 shots, potentially, from this model. I love it. You can replace the Fragstorm grenade launchers with 2 Storm Bolters. Personally, I would absolutely do that. I would rather have 4 shots at slightly longer range. Sorry, 2 shots at... Okay, 2 shots at slightly longer range, 4 shots up close. I prefer the reliability to the randomness, personally. Speaking of randomness, it has a Macro Plasma Incinerator. This thing is godlike. It's terrifyingly powerful. It does D6 shots. It's nightmarish. -4 save. And of course you can overcharge it like you can everything else. If you roll a 1 when overcharging, your Redempted Dreadnought takes a mortal wound. Who gives a damn? Just, you know, have a captain nearby to reroll hits with. Play the bloody Iron Hands chapter so you can potentially ignore that. Redempted Dreadnoughts. These things bring the pain. They're damn expensive, but they bring the pain. What else do we want? Inceptors, there we go. Inceptor squads. Once again, they're not fixed unit size anymore. They can be between 3 and 6. And it is up to 3 additional models. So you can have a 4-man squad or a 5-man squad, whatever you want. Personally, I quite like the 5-man squad because I think it's a bit more lore compliant. But you can have 6. And they can replace their assault bolters with plasma exterminators now. Which, I will let you imagine what they are, shall I? Yeah, yet more plasma goodness. Believe me, that unit potentially 18 plasma gun shots on a unit that can drop out of the sky and deploy 10 inches away from you. It's terrifying. I love it. Bit expensive, but potentially crippling. And finally, the Hellblaster squad. These guys have 3 different flavors of plasma gun. It's marvelous. You've got your plasma incinerators, your long barrel plasma guns, or you can take a plasma incinerator, which is a weaker plasma gun, but it's an assault weapon, not rapid fire. Or you can have a heavy plasma incinerator, which is essentially a better version of a plasma cannon. It's only 1 shot, mind. I think actually plasma cannons probably have a few more shots than that. So it's a better version of the plasma gun. You know, can't really complain about that. And I don't think anything else has changed from the index. Oh wait, did I forget the brick? Did I forget to mention the grav brick? Well, this thing is toughness 8, and it's got 16 wounds. Just for reference, because obviously it's important to understand. This is Land Raider territory of power. This thing is it is quite literally a fucking flying Land Raider. It's got one of those heavy onslaught Gatling cannons we mentioned earlier, a twin heavy bolter, an Iron Hail heavy stubber, an Icarus Iron Hail heavy stubber, 2 Crackstorm grenade launchers, 2 storm bolters, and auto launchers. Is it really necessary to have this many fucking guns on a single model? The Iron Hail heavy stubber is basically an anti-aircraft heavy stubber. So +1 to hit versus flyers, -1 to hit for everything else. It's silly. You can replace the twin heavy bolters with a twin las cannon. You can replace the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon with a las talon. I've got to stop saying that, or this video is going to be an hour long, isn't it? The las talon is... It's basically a short-ranged twin-linked las cannon. It's a short-barreled twin las cannon, which is weird. Not sure why you'd take it, to be honest. I think I'd rather have the fucking huge Daka gun. You know, ditch the heavy bolter for the las cannons by all means. It can replace its... Oh, it can replace its Iron Hail heavy stubber with a standard Gatling cannon. So once again, this thing can be a fucking Daka fest. We'll play the game. It can replace its auto launchers with Fragstorm grenade launchers. I think that... Oh, it can replace its Icarus heavy stubber with an Icarus rocket pod, a Storm bolter, or Fragstorm grenade launcher. And it can take an additional Iron Hail heavy stubber if you want to. Jesus fucking Christ. So the auto launcher is fun. Basically, instead of shooting your guns, it can use its auto launchers, which means enemy shooting is at -1 to hit until your next shooting phase. Why the hell you would give up that much firepower, I have no idea. Maybe you're batshit insane. The repulsor field it has. Enemies must subtract -2 from their charge rolls when trying to charge a repulsor. It's hover tank. I don't know if this is a universal thing, but distance and range are always measured to and from the model's hull, even though it has a base. It does not suffer a penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons. It can transport 10 Primaris infantry. And Gravis models... Oh, Gravis models take up two spaces. It cannot transport jump pack models. Okay, good to know. So, let's play a game of how many shots, how much raw fucking crazy Daka can we get out of this tank. So if we take the heavy onslaught cannon, the standard onslaught cannon, the extra Iron Hail heavy stubber, if we swap out that crappy auto launcher for 2 Fragstorm cannons, if we swap out the Icarus heavy stubber with another Fragstorm grenade launcher, and we take the additional Iron Hail heavy stubber. So that's 3 Fragstorm grenade launchers. That's a maximum of 18 shots, plus 18 shots from the Iron Hail heavy stubbers. That's 36 shots. Sorry, the onslaught Gatling cannons. That's 36, plus 6 for our 2 Iron Hail heavy stubbers. Sorry, we got rid of one of those. No, we didn't. Did we? Yes, we did. 36, 39, 45 shots. You can get 45 shots from a single tank. Admittedly, most of these are going to be about strength 4 or strength 5, but it doesn't fucking matter because you're rolling 45 dice. I don't care who is your target of choice, it's fucking dead. Repulsors are nightmarishly terrifying. I'm not sure exactly how much it would cost to do that, mind. Just as a kind of point of reference, this repulsor is 210 points basic. And then once you start adding in like your heavy onslaught cannon, that's another 36. You're probably going to be paying in the region of 300 odd points for this monstrosity. But 300 points to pump out 45 shots a turn, I can live with that. Your opponents can't. Your opponents are leaving the board in a hurry. So, yeah. Watch for that, guys. It's just a little bit fucking terrifying. And, of course, just a quick note about the Primarch Gulliman. He does have 9 wounds. Unless... I'm not familiar with the monster rule, so unless monster says you can target him, even though he's a character, he has the potential of being quite broken. But I think that's it. I think that's everything covered. That's worth covering. Actually, there is one last thing I do want to mention, and that is just a a thing for the Predator fans. Predators did get a bit of love with the command points. This is one command point stratagem called Kill Shot. If you have 3 Predators within 6 inches of each other, then the Predator, you can add 1 to the wound rolls and damage rolls for all the Predator's attacks that target monsters or vehicles. So, a Predator within 6 inches of 2 of the Predators gets huge bonuses, glorious bonuses. Strength 10 las cannons that deal an unholy amount of wounds. I like this, I do, I really do. I think I covered everything. I think that has been more than enough fan wanking over the Primaris. Obviously, I've not really touched too much on the lore side. There's a whole big lore about the Indomitus Crusade and we're basically in the time of vengeance, apparently. Which sounds great fun to me. Yeah, so. There's something about, I'm just having a quick look at the lore here. Apparently there's something about Redemptive Dreadnoughts, something vaguely suspicious, vaguely sinister. Not sure what the deal of that is. You're just going to have to look it up yourself. I'm not going to give away all the secrets of this book. If you really, really want to know everything that's in here, buy it yourself. But that should give you an idea of what to expect. Your Primaris Marines are a bit more flexible. The lore, maybe it's not as heinous as we thought it would be. Definitely, it looks like standard Marines and Primaris Marines, they fill different roles, but they work side by side. And apparently Guilliman wants that to be the case. He wants the raw power of single weapon Legion style units to be bolstered by the flexibility of traditional chapter units. So, there you go. Fun times all round. TheStabbyBrit signing out.